Welcome back. I can see from the requests that you've been sending in that your investigation is progressing very, very well. In fact, I can see that you've gathered some information from some bank accounts. Now that information, as you've seen, has been summarized on an Excel spreadsheet showing all of the incoming money, showing all of the outflows of the money also. So that's a good thing that it's been summarized, but the difficult thing is that there's many, many entries in some of these bank accounts. And how are you going to analyze the bank accounts? How are you going to determine how much money was paid to each entity? How much money was received from each source of funds? How can you do this? Now, as we scroll through, if we look at this particular PowerPoint or this particular Excel spreadsheet that has summarized bank records. Now I should mention to you that these summarized bank records are not the ones that you're using in your investigation. But if we look at this, and you can see I'm scrolling through, and there's many, many records. In fact, I think there's over 300 records in this particular summarized bank information. So the question is, how can you make sense out of this? Well, the answer is really very easy. You're going to let the computer do the work for you. We're going to show you in the next 10 or 15 minutes some very simple processes that you can use on this Excel spreadsheet to make complete sense out of these very voluminous bank records with just a few clicks of your mouse. And we're going to have a lot of fun in doing this also. Now, as I go through these processes and show you each of the types of analysis that we're going to be doing, it's going to involve learning which buttons to click and how to organize this data. Don't worry about taking specific notes as I go through this demonstration, because at the end of this, we're going to provide you with a PowerPoint presentation that's going to show each step for each of these movements very clearly on the PowerPoint. So first we'll give you this live demonstration to show you how we can analyze the account using the power of the computer. And then afterwards we'll briefly show you the PowerPoint presentation so that you can see that you have all the steps provided for you in that presentation that you can refer to. Okay, so we've got this particular bank account and it has many, many entries. And if we scroll through, we really don't have any idea where to start to organize this data. So let's learn what we can do to make this very simple. The first thing is that this data has been summarized in the Excel spreadsheet by a great deal of work, actually. We had to do some data entry from the source information we received to the bank to get this information to the Excel spreadsheet. Now, sometimes that takes an awful lot of work, but once it's in there, we have the ability to analyze it quickly. However, you certainly don't want to make a mistake on your original spreadsheet, in which case maybe you could lose some of the data, maybe you could perform a function that disables some of the functionality of it. So we want to be sure we leave the original information completely intact. So one way of doing this is by creating a copy of this particular spreadsheet, but not necessarily in a separate file, because we may want to refer back to the original information at any point in time. So we can make a copy by looking down to the bottom of the spreadsheet, and I'll make my cursor go in circles so it'll catch your eye. And I'll go down to the bottom of the spreadsheet, and you can see there's what we call a little tab down there. And this tab says Personal Account, Original. This is the one that we want to make a copy of because we don't want to work with this original data. So it's a very simple process. Again, I'll move my cursor around so you can see. I'm going to come down and highlight this tab. Then I'm going to do what's called a right click. And we get a menu. And you can see we have a variety of choices. One of them says move or copy. So we're going to select this one. We're going to click on copy, and we get another menu. Basically, when we get these menus, what's happening is the computer is talking to us. The computer is talking to us and asking us questions saying, what do you want to do? I'll do whatever you want, you just have to tell me. So that's what we're going to do right now, is we're going to tell the computer what to do. So there's a little teeny box here. I'll move my cursor around so it draws your eye to it. And it says create a copy. We're going to check that. And then the computer says, where do you want me to put this amongst your other tabs? Well, I always like to move it to the end. That way I know which one I'm working with. So I'm going to click move to end and then OK. At this point, you may notice, and I'll move my cursor around again to catch your eye, there's a brand new tab at the bottom, and it says the same thing, personal account original, but there's a 2 after it. So we've created an identical copy. This is the copy that we're going to work with so that we don't hurt any of the original data. Now, to make this even more clear, why don't we change the name of this copy and call it work copy, so we'll know exactly what we have. Again, I'm going to move my cursor over the top of this tab. I'm going to do a right click. We're going to get this menu. We're going to say rename. I'm going to click rename, and it highlights the tab I'm working in. I'm simply going to start typing while it's highlighted, and I'm going to put work copy. Once I do that, I can move my cursor up into the body of the spreadsheet. You see I'm moving it around, and just click anywhere. And now we've renamed that tab to work copy. Okay, now we're working with information on a copy that if we make a mistake, it's not a problem at all. We can just delete this whole sheet if we need, make another copy and start all over again. So the first thing we'd like to do is organize the information so we can very quickly see who were all of the people that he paid money to, and what are all the sources of income that he received money from. How can we do this? This is an extremely simple process. We're just going to move the cursor to the top of the column that says source or disposition. And I'll move the cursor around again so you can see where I'm at. And I click on the heading, source or disposition. Now from here, as with Excel, normally you can do the same function by using 2 or 3 different methods. So first I'll show you one method to sort this column by the payees and the sources of information. We can go up to the area that shows this A to Z, or yours may say Z to A. If you see where this is at the top, I'll move my cursor around again, and there's a little button, and we click on that, and we have some choices, and we're going to choose ascending, so we'll put it in alphabetical order. So I click ascending, and we've put this in alphabetical order. Just one click of the button, and instead of this spreadsheet being a complete disaster where we don't know where to start, we've put it in nice alphabetical order. Now I should mention one thing before we progress further. Microsoft has come out with a number of different versions of Excel and Word and their various applications. There was a version in 2003, another one in 2007, one in 2009. I'm using the version called Microsoft Suites for Excel, Microsoft Suites for Macs 2011. So the buttons that you push may be a little bit different, but they're going to be very similar. In other words, you're going to find all these same buttons under the Data tab. Let's click Data now. See, I'll move my cursor around. We click Data, and we get a different sub-menu down here where I'm running my cursor. And in this sub-menu, again, we find this Z to A or A to Z. So that's a second place that we could have used to sort this data. So even if you have a different version of Excel, it doesn't matter. You'll be able to find these particular functions. And I can tell you that the PowerPoint that we're giving you, where we demonstrate which buttons to click, in that one we use Microsoft Suites for 2007. So that'll give you another option of where you can find these buttons, but they're all very similar. And if you're working on a particular version and have a problem, all you have to do is use that message tab. Send us a message and we'll send you instructions on how to perform any of these tasks. Okay, what we've done here is we've isolated the source and disposition column and we've put it in alphabetical order. So if we look at this spreadsheet and we scroll down, we can now easily see everything is in alphabetical order. All of the payments that were made to Bank of Hypotheca, all of the ATM withdrawals, I'll scroll down some more. All the payments that were made to Carlos Spa. So everything is nice and orderly. How does this help you? Well, in a number of ways. You can quickly go through here and find out where all the money was paid to, and you can quickly find all the sources of money. Because if we look at this column, the one I'm highlighting, it says check amount. Another word for this column would be disposition of monies. This column tells us all of the monies that went out of the account. And that will be matched to the particular person who received that money. In this case, you can see that Carlos Spa was paid a number of times, and you can see the amounts in this column right here. Now, if we want to know where all the money came from, we can look in the deposit column. And you can see near the bottom that we have cash deposits. That tells us that these amounts, all these cash deposit amounts, came into the account. Let's scroll down a little further, see if we can find some more deposits. Here we have deposits that were made from the government of Hypotheca. This was his salary for each month. So you're going to find the money coming into the account in the deposit column, the money going out in the check amount. And we've got it all nice and organized right now so that they're all grouped together. Now that, of course, is a very, very helpful thing. It's going to let you show very quickly where the money came from and where it went to. Let's look at another function that we can use. It's called the filter function. And if we look up here on the top left-hand side, where my cursor is running around in circles, we can see there's actually a little filter. If I click on that, what it's going to do is add a little marker right inside of each heading. So here's the headings: source or disposition, deposit amount, and so on. When I click on filter, look in this area and you're going to see a little mark that comes up, a little filter. So here I go, click, and there's all these little marks with a little arrow to it. So what did I just do here? It doesn't look like anything really changed. And quite honestly, it didn't change yet. But now it's set us up so that we can isolate any particular group that received money, or we can isolate any particular source of money. And we can isolate one or two or three, whatever we want to do. So let's go to the source and disposition column. And I'm going to put my cursor, as you see, right on the little tab right with the little down arrow there. And what we're going to do right now is we're going to try to isolate just the cash deposits, because that might be something you're interested in seeing without trying to wade through 500 different entries. At the click of a button, we're going to see all the cash deposits, the dates they were made, and the exact amounts. So I'm going to click that little filter button right here if you see where I'm at. Click it, and we get another menu. Again, the computer is simply asking us, hey, tell me what to do. I'm going to come down here where it has listed all of the places where money has been paid to. You can see Atlantic Bank, ATM, Bank of Hypotheca, and it will also list all the sources of money. So I can continue to scroll down, and you're seeing all the different entities that were paid money and from which money was received. But we want to tell the computer, we only want to see for the moment just the cash deposits. So I'm going to click the little button. Again, I'm swirling the arrow so you can see it. I'm going to click on the item that says select all, because that's going to deselect everything when I click, because it's already checked. So I'm going to click this button one time, and now I don't have any check marks in any of these items. See these items right here? So I'm going to scroll down just a little bit using this little scroll button on the side till I find cash deposits. And here it is, cash deposits. If you can see this, I'll move my cursor around, kind of highlight that. And there's a little box next to it, and I'm going to click the little box. Oops, I clicked the wrong box. Click cash deposits. I'm going to unclick that one. Now I've only clicked cash deposits. At the moment it was a little bit out of sight, so I scrolled upward. And now here's a summary of all the cash deposits that he made. You can see in the item column the date of every single cash deposit, the amount. So with just a couple of clicks of the mouse, we were able to isolate this. This could be very beneficial for you if you want to go to the bank and try to get additional records relating to the cash deposit. Now you have a clean record that you can provide to them. Let's take a look at another filter that you want to do. I'm going to get rid of the cash deposits. I'm going to unclick that by just clicking one more time on it. Let's say we want to go to Carlos's spa and ask Carlos, we see right here, Carlos's spa. We recall that he made a number of payments there, and we want to know exactly what that was for. What kind of leads could that give to us? Carlos may have records as to who the client was. Maybe the client was his girlfriend and not his wife. So we may be able to identify somebody that he was involved with and was paying money for, and we want to track this money. So Carlos's spa could provide us with all sorts of interesting information. Maybe Carlos will also tell us, oh, he came many more times than this, and he gave us a check. And we get copies of those checks. And now we find a whole different bank account. So there's a variety of reasons we may want to go talk to Carlos. So all I'm going to do to isolate all these payments is click on Carlos's spa. And immediately, I'll move this out of the way, immediately we have all of the payments made to Carlos with the amounts and the dates that they were made. So what can we do with this? We can simply print this sheet and take this with us during the interview And then we'll have a reference when we're talking to Carlos, because we know for a fact that he made payments on each of these dates and each of these amounts. And this will be very helpful during our interview with Carlos. So we can print this out, and then when we're done, we can simply go back to the filter. If you'll notice, I'm at the top of the column now. I'm going to click again. We get the drop-down menu. This time I'm going to say select all. Then I'll close this item. And we're back to having the full spreadsheet in alphabetical order. And if you don't want to have the filter function on, it's very, very simple. It's just like a light switch. We're going to go back to the filter up here in the top left corner, and we're going to click on it, and the filters have disappeared. If we wanted to keep this tab with the filters on there, we could easily have done that also, just kept the filters in place. And if we wanted a clean spreadsheet to work with for other functions, we could simply go back to the original, and we could create another tab copy and start working again. Okay? But I've simply, for our purposes, eliminated the filters so we can move on to a different function. Okay, what else can we do? Well, would you be interested to know how much money was paid to each of these entities? In other words, for Atlantic Power, you see all of these payments. There must be 20 or 30 of them. But you want to know the total. Well, you could manually make the total, but why do that? Let's let the computer do all the work for you. So we're going to use the subtotal function to let the computer total every one of these entities and tell us how much money was either paid to that particular person or business, or what was the total amount of income they received from a particular source, such as his government salary. It'll give us the total very quickly. Okay, how are we going to do this? We've already sorted the column. Now the next thing we're going to do, we're going to go to the top and we're going to click on Data. And under Data, we're going to see we have a submenu, and it says Subtotal. We'll click on Subtotal, and we get another menu. Again, this is simply the computer asking us a number of questions as to what we want the computer to do. So the first question the computer asked is, what column do you want us to look at? It says at each change in, and if we click the little arrow here, we see that it has all of the column headings listed there for us. Year, description, item date, and so on. So which column do we want the computer to look at and give us a total of the amounts relating to the items in that column? Well, it would be the source or disposition, because that's where all the entities are listed that he paid money to. So we're going to click on source or disposition. That's the first thing the computer's asked us. The second thing is, the computer says right here, where I'm running my cursor around, it says, what function do you want to use? This one says count. Well, I really don't want to just count them. That's of very little value. But how about give us a total or the sum? So I click on the little arrow, gives us more choices. The first one is sum. So we'll click sum. Now we've told it we want a sum of all the payments made to each individual item. And then the computer says, okay, but what column do you want me to look in to find these amounts? And for some reason, the computer always seems to click on comments. But do we want a total of the comments? I don't think so. That's really not of any value. So we're going to unselect that by clicking comments, and you'll notice the check mark goes away. What two columns have the money amounts? Well, they would be the check amount and the deposit amount. So we'll go to the little menu. We're going to click on both of those, check amount, deposit amount. Now we've told the computer which columns we want to look in to find the information, which columns we want to look in to find the amounts, and what function do we want to do. We want to get a sum or a total. So we're ready to say OK. I click OK, and look what has happened. For each item, we can see here, for example, all the cash deposits. Each of these items has now been totaled in this cell right here. Very quickly we look at this and we say, okay, over this period of time, he made $56,415 or euros or whatever the monetary amount is of cash deposits. I can highlight this for you very quickly. I'll do the same for Carlos's spa. And so now we can go through the bank account, and I can highlight each of these, and we can find the total amount paid to each entity or the total amount of income received. Let's take a look at his salary. How much salary did he earn during this period of time? There it is. One click of the button, and we know how much his total salary was during this period of time. Let the computer do the work for you. Let's do one more thing before we close this session. It may be interesting for you to know the totals for all these items broken down by year. This particular spreadsheet covers a 2.5-year period of records, over 300 items over 2.5 years. So you may want to know, what was his salary by year? How much did he pay each of these entities by year? Very, very simple again. Let the computer do the work for you. We're going to go back to data. So up at the top, data. We're going to go back to subtotals again. Okay, now this is interesting because it gives us a message, a range is required. What that means is I've made a mistake. I didn't put my cursor in the body of this spreadsheet. So I had my cursor somewhere outside, and the computer said, I'd like to help you, but I don't know where you want me to look. So I'm going to click OK, and then I'm going to put my cursor anywhere in the body of this spreadsheet. Now I'm going to start again by going to Data, Subtotals, and now I get the proper menu. See, even when I make a mistake, the computer says, I don't know what you're trying to tell me. So it helps me out and points me in the right direction. Okay, so we're going to do the same exercise here. We're going to answer all the questions that the computer asks us. This time it says, what column do you want us to look in to give you a total every time there's a change? Well, we've already broken it down by the source and the disposition. Now we want to break it down by the years. So we're simply going to click on the little button right here, see our choices, and the first one is year. So we're going to select year, telling the computer every time there's a change in the year, give us another subtotal. I click. Second question, yes, we still want a sum, no problem. What column should we look in for the amounts? They remain the same also. Check and deposit amounts. Now this little button down here says, do you want us to replace the current subtotals? I think no. I'm going to tell the computer, give us subtotals by year, but let's keep the grand total so we can see it broken down by year and the grand total. So we're going to unselect that because we don't want them replaced. Now we're ready, and let's see, with one more click of the button, it automatically gives us the subtotals by year, and it maintained our grand totals, which you can see those are highlighted in yellow. So for Carlos's spa, for example, how much did he pay in 2008 to Carlos's spa? We can highlight that for 2009, for 2010, and the grand total is there in yellow. So with just a few clicks of the button, we've made the computer do all the work for us. It's analyzed who this person paid money to, where they received their money, we've totaled it, we've got a grand total, we've got totals by years. We can use this information to go out and conduct interviews, to find out how much money he spent. If we're working, for example, an investigation that involves illicit wealth, we can find out exactly how much money he spent at each entity and where all the money came from. So we let the computer do the work. Now, very quickly, I'm going to show you the Excel PowerPoint that we're going to be providing to you. I'm not going to go through every step because we've just done that, but I'm going to show you just the first couple of slides so that you can see what you're going to be getting. Okay, so in this PowerPoint, we start with the same thing, a raw spreadsheet, and we show you how to make that copy of the tab. As you can see, we number each step for you, and with arrows, we show you exactly where you should click each button. And going through each slide and each function, again, we show you step by step. So this PowerPoint is a great reference point for you to be able to go back and replicate all these actions so that you can quickly analyze the bank accounts that you've now acquired through your investigative efforts. Okay, thank you very much, and let's continue with working your case, and we'll see you soon.